We're back on Coffee with Movie na leo na hang out na Maryanne Oranjo. Okay, ingekuwa hivyo kando kwa mkutana Sheng. Maryanne Imani. Oranjo is Karanja.
Okay. So
I got you there.
You did.
So tell me, even before you got to Oranjo, you are primary school, got saved in standard 4 with your mom.
Got saved in class 4 with my mom, and then
umeanza kuimba.
No, before I actually got born again, in class 3, I actually remember the teacher asking, "What did you want to be when you grow up?" You know, she was going around akiuliza kila mtu, and I was like, guys were saying doctor, farmer, teacher, and I said, I want to be the best musician in the world. Like, I still remember, like, in detail, how excited I was saying that. And yeah, that was class 3. I don't even got born again. But I really loved singing from even like way back. Yeah, so class 4 got born again.
Wow. So now, when now you finish in primary, your mom has come for you. Now you go to high school.
Yes.
High school was still in the same place, Kikuyu?
No. I went to Mary, a school called Narumaru Girls that really shaped me. Narumaru Girls. No, she's here.
Nimesikia Narumaru.
Narumaru.
Sikia nilisema. Maybe hata ni Narumaru. Narumaru.
Gasha, mimi nilipita hiyo mtihani, thank God. Mama made sure nimepita.
Tell me about Narumaru.
Yeah, so Narumaru was a very cold place. It was extremely cold, but I was in the CU. I was a CU choir master. I was a CU secretary at some point. I was a prefect. It really molded me to who I am today.
Wow. And
it was a very cold place. It was a very strict place. But one thing I remember about Narumoru that I always remember, the principal would call me during opening days. And we are so many of us, but he would call Maryanne to come and, lead the opening prayers for the term. Out of even more spiritual they also, had colleagues who are more spiritual. But I don't know what she said. May should call me to just open prayers. Even in closing school, Maryanne, you come and do the closing prayers. So that always that was quite something for me. But in high school, I sang a lot. I sang during church services. I sang a lot. I had many groups. I was also called a school nurse.
Why were you
Hata kuna time nilifukuzwa shule, by the way. And it's all because I had misbehaved. I'd not misbehaved, but my grades had gone down. Because what was happening was almost everyone, anyone with a problem in school, whether it is at home, whether the parents are separating, or they are just having issues in their lives, who would they go to? Maryanne. If there is a case, the first people, these people, I mean, my schoolmates would go to was me. If whatever situation was Maryanne, they confided in me a lot. And then me with my empathy, instead of during evening, prep, instead of studying, I am busy finding encouraging words for these people, writing them down. Sylvia, da. So by the end of the prep, I have notes for so many, and I'm going to their classes to give them an encouraging notes. Like I was just, it's like I'd gone to school to be, what is it called, mental nurse or emotional nurse. I had a lot of that. So my grades went down, and I was told to go call my dad. And the principal said, Maryanne, you have to stop being the school nurse. Like, when these people come to you with all their problems, can you tell them you also have to study? Because they come, tell you their problems, they are okay, they go study. You're still left dealing and feeling such empathy. So that is how my high school basically was. I was just that, what they call today psychologist in counseling. I was that person. I was really there for people. I was called a school nurse. So so that was my high school life for me. It was more of, I was very empathetic. People came to me, and I knew for sure that I was going to be a psychologist once I'm done. I know I was going to be a counseling psychologist after high school. I'm still working on that.
So what is it now that where you grew up now with Nini, does it make you mature as such that when you're in high school now
it was so
you see things deeper?
I think because of also how, because of growing up with that gap of not having a dad and seeing how other, you know, there's just that gap, there's just that thing in me that made me see things in a very deep way and understand people. You know, when people would come tell me, oh, this is what I'm going through, I wouldn't just look at face value, at the face value of it. I'll try and understand it from all sides. As young as I was, I was so sure I was going to be a psychologist movie, like 100%.
So what gives you, what kind of, when somebody has troubles around their lives, I'm sure you have a summary word that you tell them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things they are facing.
Yeah.
What do you think their future has in store?
Well, I believe life is about seasons. Yeah. There are seasons where you will go through very, very, very tough times. But that season doesn't last forever. But there are things you have to learn in that season. So I always believe when someone is going through a very, very tough time, it's because there's some things they have to learn. There's some things they also have to learn. There's things they have to unlearn. There's some wisdom they need to acquire. There's knowledge they need to acquire in that tough season. So I always tell them, there's something you have to learn. There's some knowledge, there's some wisdom, there's something, there's some
within that.
Yeah, this is something you have to learn in this season because it's not going to last. But if you don't learn what you need to learn in this season, it's going to keep reoccurring and reoccurring until you learn. So learn what you need to learn, and then there'll be another season. The next season is always a replay of what happened, of what you did in the last season, what you learned. So I'm always, you know, trying to encourage and tell them the season will be over. But what have you learned in that season so it doesn't have to really repeat itself in the same way? Yeah, some things are also deep, like death. When it comes to things like death, I mean, that's just life. You just have to accept the grieving period, you know. Yeah.
So now when people come and tell you, hey, or if you give a quote to somebody, like now if I fish for a quote, I tell somebody, tough situations don't last, tough people do. Then somebody asks you, but how? Who said I'm tough?
Yeah.
What do you say? Or do you tell them that's a process that's making you something?
Exactly, that's a process that's making you something. But I would also like refer them to like Job in the Bible. Job went through a very tough time. I mean, everything was taken away from him, including his health, his children. Everything was taken away.
And
but he didn't.
Took herself away.
You know. But he didn't waver. He did not curse God. He still trusted in God, with or without, during that tough season. Just trust God. And if anything, people will disappoint you, you'll even be disappointed with yourself. Trust in God, like Job. And the same God is able to give you back everything that you've lost.
Good. Do you have that? You said tough. Do you have your tough moments?
I've had my very tough moments.
Which is that very, even your voice has changed. Which is that very tough? I don't concentrate.
Well, I've had very tough. Well, so fast forward, I left high school and then I went to college, and then while in college I didn't have enough money to finish college.
What are you studying?
I was studying IT at Multimedia University.
Told you, we're in the same lines.
In the same lines. I was at Multimedia University, and I remember, being sent home again. And I got a job. I got an internship at USA, then I got a job. By 20, I had a job.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a job, and then while in that job, I met my husband. Hold up, you're not gonna go there now. But yeah, I met my husband, and then still while at that job, I was aiming higher. I got a job at Emirates Airlines, and yeah, that was one of my favorite and most amazing and blessed moments when I learned that I'd gotten that job. We had 300 of interviewees,
yes,
and they needed only 3 people for that particular season. They needed 3 people.
That's 1%.
How I ended up, let me tell you, that queue for the cabin crew was the interview was at Grand. Then it used to be called Grand Regency.
Yeah, Grand Regency.
Sorry,
you hang out with Mkamba. It's understandable. Grand Legend, Grand. I feel at home.
Anyway, like or now, yeah.
Yeah, like Regency.
Exactly. So the queue was so long. There are people who had been in KQ, different airlines. They wanted Emirates. How I ended up being among the top 3 who got it was God. So that was one of my favorite moments. Yes. However, when I went there, yeah, I went there. I really helped. Now my mom got married. Did I mention my mom got married when I was in high school?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She got married and she did a wedding with an amazing. I have an amazing stepfather. Oh, stepfathers, they're good stepfathers. An amazing stepfather. Faith, he's a pastor now. He's an amazing.
Wow.
Like he took me like his own daughter, his own child, and I really thank God for him. And but I was still really helping my family as a first child, and of course they got children, I got siblings, and I was really helping them. And one of my most, I think, difficult moments was now when I had to come back. I decided to come back, and then when I came back, I really wanted to do music, and I got married, and I think I got married quite early.
At that 20?
I got married at 23. At 21, I was engaged. I met my hubby at 20, got engaged at 22, not 21. Basically, met him at 20. By 23, we were wedding. We were having our wedding at 23. I think I was engaged about 21, 22. I don't know, just around there. I think one of my difficult times has definitely been, getting married pretty early. I married my first love, thank God. But
that rarely happens.
That rarely happens, and I'm really grateful for that. But when there's so much knowledge that you need to, before there's a wedding and there's marriage, you need to. I was living in Dubai by the time I came now to do the wedding. So we weren't doing the counseling, classes, the premarital counseling classes.
We're in love.
We're just in love.
Go wrong?
Love will make it work. And then you're so young. He was also quite young. And then you go in, you're like, oh, we're having now babies. And it was just also blending in, having come from Dubai and him having lived here, independently, and having to leave my very good job. That was a very difficult time.
You just upped and left?
I just upped and I'm like, I'm coming to my love.
To my love.
Is what I want.
Forever after
I don't want to travel around the world. Nah, I want to have a family. Let me tell you, I really wanted a family also going back. Family was very important to me because of how I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up as the only child for a long time. And number two, when my mom got married, there was an emptiness that was left. Because now she's gotten married. She's gotten married to someone else. Her focus is on that person and her children. I was left very empty. And I just needed to have that sense of belonging. And there was that emptiness of, I didn't have my father. There was that rejection at the beginning. Then I felt like I've been left now by my mom. So I needed someone who will never leave. Someone who just... So for me, family was more important than work, than traveling across the world. It was. Remember my friends asking me, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." But I really love my husband. He really, my fiancé then, and he really loved me back, and I knew that would work, and it still worked. Come on, you're here. We just celebrated our 11th anniversary.
She was to come for the interview.
We had a whole 1 week honeymoon.
She ran away from the interview again.
Oh yeah. So anyway, for us it was very hard at the beginning. Just marriage is not easy. So of course when you're married young and there's no premarital counseling, you have to learn so many things along the way, and that was hard. That was very challenging. I didn't know would make it through. It really, as in seeing us having come this far. Also the long distance brought in a lot of things as well. But I really thank God, because God has really seen us through. He's been so faithful. We've even grown even more in love than we were then. Like, it was very tough. I remember sometimes, because being a firstborn and independent and not being the only child, of course it came with its own, issues. Like, there are some things that I have to do independently and even him being who he is also. So blending in it was difficult. It was difficult, but I am grateful that we have overcome that challenge. Yeah.
So you didn't feel like I can get married and still continue with my job at the Emirates?
That was hard, because it meant then we'd have to go back with him in Dubai. At the time I was even earning more than him. So I was telling him, why can't you go back to Dubai and you get a job there? He was like, no, I have a vision here. And I'm so grateful he didn't agree to come back, because God has really blessed him. Like, his followed through his vision,
Yeah.
and God has really blessed him. And yeah,
But hapo vile unakasummarize, it must have been really hard too. Because either one of you has to sacrifice there.
well, one of us had to sacrifice, and I did, and I don't regret.
Mm.
I don't regret sacrificing, as in at all.
Wow. When we come back, you will tell us more about now your ventures right now.
All right.
More about your music.
Yes.
And a bit of advice for people who marry
Yeah.
young, maybe some of the things you
Yeah.
want. We'll be back. Coffee with Movie with Maryanne Imani. We'll be back right soon.
Moving, 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 moving.